Hi, it's Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made an Origami Yoda out of Mama Elephant's Origami stamp set. I'm using 5 stamps from the Origami set as well as the Sketchy Letters stamp set for the sentiment. These 2 stamp sets are part of Mama Elephant's February release and work really well together. The sentiments for Origami are smaller versions of the Sketchy Letters. Origami is an art and Sketchy Letters are artsy. I really love them both together. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp the various origami animals and objects that I need to create Yoda. I created a reference sheet so I could keep track of the parts. The bulldog or bear will provide the face, torso, and arms. The other dog will provide the nose and front of the robe or back of the cloak. The paper airplane will provide the cane. The cranes will provide the ears and eyes. The swans will provide the sides of the cloak. Now I'm going to color in the parts that will be cut out to create Yoda, starting with his head and torso. Basically, this is the head of the bulldog or bear. I've turned it upside down so you can start to visualize it as I color. On the first smaller dog, I color in Yoda's nose. For Yoda's ears, I'm using part of the wings on the crane. I'm shading them differently so that the shadows are the same when placed on opposite sides of his head. Next, I color in what will be his cane, and I use the paper airplane for that. These last parts will form his cloak. Here you can start to visualize his arms folded inward. These 2 triangles are what would be his dress robes inside the cloak. The folds on the swans will be the flowing sides of Yoda's cloak. I've forgotten one little thing, his eyes. So I go back and color these. I forgot to shade them differently like the ears, so I go back in with my colorless blender to lighten up the corresponding areas. Now it's time to cut out all the little pieces. First is the head and torso. I can immediately adhere the nose to the face. Then I take the edge of my scissors and curl back the top of his head. This adds dimension to Yoda. Next are his ears. Then his eyes. You can really start to see him coming together now. I think if I were to do this again, I might even turn the eyes the other way, as in the points would be facing inward, tucked underneath the nose piece. You could try it both ways and see which one you like better. Next, I'm going to cut out the cloak pieces and the cane. After that's done, I'm going to use the bottom wing tip of the crane to stamp Yoda's fingers. First, I'm going to tear and apply a piece of masking paper so I don't get ink on the sleeve. When that's done, I can form the bottom half of the body with the remaining 3 pieces from the smaller dog and 2 swans. It's a bit difficult to keep the pieces where they are right now since they keep sliding around. However, you can really visualize the final results this way, and I'm going to use these proportions to gauge Yoda's placement on the card when setting up for the sentiment. And here's Yoda with his cane. I've cut a piece of cardstock to make a 3 1/4 inch by 6 1/2 inch card, one of my favorite sizes. I've done a rough draft of the sentiment I want to use using the Sketchy Letters stamp set. This sentiment cracks me up, and I thought it would be perfectly paired with Origami Yoda. I'm just going to measure it with Yoda in position to see where I need to start on the card base. So now I'm drawing the guidelines for the sentiment. I check one more time to make sure that everything is going to fit and then start stamping from the bottom up. I didn't use guidelines in the draft, so you can see that these sketchy letters are pretty easy to line up. For the period at the end of the sentences, I just mask off the stick from the letter I or the top of the exclamation mark and stamp the dot. Now I move to the second line. When all the stamping is done, I take my Staedtler eraser to the paper and remove all the pencil lines. This eraser works like magic. It appears to be selective in erasing ink smudges, but doesn't fade anything else, even though I apply a good deal of pressure. It's quite amazing, and I wouldn't use any other brand of eraser. After removing all the rubber dust, I can place Yoda in his spot. I'm going to apply a bit of score tape to the edges of his cloak. I didn't quite cut on the outline, so there's a bit of white showing between his dress robes and the cloak. It was too hard to snip off the sliver, so I just took the coordinating marker to blacken the bit of white. Now I can apply a bit of score tape to the bottom edge of the torso to hold the 3 remaining pieces together. Once I get all the angles the way I want them, I apply another piece of score tape to the back to hold everything together. This also provides a good base for the foam tape that I'll add later. Next, I curl up the corners of Yoda's ears as well as the flowing cloak. I'm looking for the cane here and find it hiding against the edge of my cutting mat. I'm going to adhere it to Yoda and then again use the bottom wing from the crane to stamp his fingers. So now he's done, and I'm going to add foam tape to the back of him and adhere him to the card. But first, I'm going to stamp my creator information and fold the card. This is always easier when everything is completely flat. My card is done, and I hope all of you Star Wars fans are delighted at the versatility of this origami set. I'm sure there are many more possibilities out there. All you have to do is stamp out a few of each animal, cut them up, and move them around like a puzzle. Have fun with it! Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my card. Thanks so much for watching.